So I'll be, range of motion.
Rolling? Okay. Lights, camera, action.
So I'm here because my passion is to learn from my experiences and help others and myself grow from it. And from group therapy, like I felt like connection from other people that went through other experiences also, and that was a huge healing for me. So that's how I found MJ and the crew. So what would you say is the root of where all this is coming from, like your love loss and anything that happened in your life?
The root, well, I would say there's that core wound that I see in myself and in so many people that I work with, is that I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of love. I had this experience, I'll just tell you a story that happened when I was 3 years old, that I didn't even realize was at the core of that thought. So I was at daycare, a little toddler, little 3-year-old boy running around, and my father came to pick me up one day. And my parents were having a lot of problems. They divorced when I was 4, so I was probably 3 years old at the time, kinder care in Maryland, and just running around. And my dad came to pick me up, and I saw him walk in from the other side of the room. And I looked up, and there's my dad. And then I saw him bend over and pick up another little boy and go, "Son." And I didn't have a brother. And so I remember watching my dad pick up this other little kid and love him, give him the love that he was supposed to be giving me. And I remember thinking in that moment, oh my God, I don't deserve my dad's love. And other people are more worthy of love than I am. This other little kid is more worthy of love than I am. And instantly in that moment, I began believing this story that I'm not worthy of love. I have no idea what actually happened. I have no idea maybe that kid tripped on a Skittle or something, and my dad just sort of caught him as he was falling and picked him up so that he didn't, I don't know. But in my memory, that's like one of those early moments that, dad's love wasn't mine.
So you had that pinpoint that happened.
Yeah.
How many years do you think that was sitting with you, and like confusion, like that was bothering you deep down, and you didn't know what to do with it?
Well, I'm 41 years old. That happened when I was 3. And I think there's been, there were other experiences that happened that kind of confirmed, being bullied, kids picking on me, girls rejecting me, not making the soccer team, whatever those things happened. But my whole life I've lived with that story of I'm not worthy of love. And so what that would have me do is also that had me make choices to stay in relationships, to stay in experiences where I was getting confirmation that, I was in the presence of someone who could not really love, because they had their own kinks around how to give love, right? And so I stayed in an abusive relationship for almost 5 years because of that story that I'm not worthy of love. That was till I was 36 years old.
So when you came to the point where you said you were in a relationship for 5 years,
yeah,
and you came to a point realizing that there was obviously that 5 years in the relationship, there was something that wasn't right.
Well, I realized that after 4 months in the relationship.
So from that 4 months
I stayed in it for
5 years,
yeah,
it was a constant battle that you were fighting inside
absolutely.
of you. Now, how do you deal with that battle? Because it's a deep emotional battle which you feel not understood.
You know what happened that I think. So, I was ashamed of myself. I had a lot of shame. Again, I'm not worthy of love. I'm not good enough. All of those sort of that genre of thinking. And so then I entered into a relationship with a woman who would confirm that for me. So it's like I was externalizing the voices I believed inside in this woman who would be very abusive towards me. She would tell me I was disgusting. She would tell me I'm not a man. She would tell me, she called me a rat, which at first was, became a term of endearment, but it didn't, its origins was a term of you're a fucking rat and I hate you, right? And so all of these things. And the thing is, what I realized is the reason it burned when she would say it is because I believed it. The reason I stayed with her is because I fucking believed it. I believed that I was disgusting. I believed that who I was, like my sexuality, there was a lot of jealousy in the relationship, and she wanted me to feel ashamed for the fact that I was sexually just attracted to life, to other women. I didn't act on it, but there was a lot of shame around that, and I felt shame. So of course I stayed in this relationship because I figured if I can just get her to think differently, if I can get some external validation for what I'm dying to be free of inside, then I'll be okay.
It sounds like you had a very deep hunger inside of you. Do you think you were that hunger was based off that trauma from you as a little child and you were trying to get her to fix it? Or you were trying to just get a connection?
You know, I think, so as a little boy, I was always in my head. My parents were fighting a lot, so I retreated into my head. I wasn't really happy because my parents weren't happy. I mean, they fought a lot in the first couple years of my life. And then, I lived in a world, as most boys do, I lived in a world where I was taught not to feel emotions. Boys don't cry, don't be a pussy, don't be a girl. No pain, no gain, right? Don't show weakness, keep, muddle through it. And then I went into the military. 16, 17 years old, I went into the military, which taught me even more to go into my head and disconnect me from my body, right? So emotionally, I was really checked out in a pretty extreme way. And so I got out of the military when I was 26 years old, and I was just dead inside, completely dead inside. Couldn't feel anything. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't cry. So, I had these stories of unworthiness, and then on top of that, now I can't feel anything. So, I mean, I was tortured, man. I was living in my head, tortured by these stories, and then I went to try to do relationships with these feminine, emotional, dynamic women, and I didn't stand a fucking chance. So, but the thing is, what I realize now is I needed these women to kick my fucking ass so that I could wake up, to like rip me open, to eviscerate me. I mean, I chose women that would not settle for anything less than me showing up as a man. And I had no idea how to do that because I didn't have fathers showing me how to really be a mature, healthy man in the world. So, I mean, man, we could go all kinds of places with this, but...
In your deepest point of the shame and guilt and all that bad feelings, did you feel that no one understood you?
Did I feel like no one understood me? It's an interesting question. I mean, I felt very alone for a lot of my life. Yeah, as a man, especially, I felt that there were no other men I could really talk to about my experience. And I grew up on the East Coast. I didn't grow up in California. There's all these like beautiful men out here that love to emote and and talk about deeper stuff. I didn't grow up with that at all. I mean, I felt very alone. Absolutely. I felt like I saw a world that no one else could see.
So obviously, now that me and you are talking, you obviously came a long way.
Oh yeah.
So, what was the breaking point that you started feeling good about yourself?
Oh man, what was the breaking point? I started feeling good about myself. Jeez, it's been a long journey, and there's been so many moments of breaking open. I think in life we're either opening our hearts or we're closing them. Every moment is either an act of opening or closing, and I think I've spent so much time in closure, which is it's a great teacher, right? Contrast is a great teacher, and the pain of closure. There's been all kinds of moments that, I mean, breaking my own heart in relationship to women, or also moments of opening, that surrender. And I mean, geez, man, there's countless of those. And quite frankly, I mean, my journey has involved psychedelic drugs as well, using mushrooms and ayahuasca to really come back into my body. I mean, these plant medicines that again are help us get back into our bodies. Intimate relationships with women who demanded that I be in my body, not checked out in my head. Life for me, it's been just all kinds of experiences coming at me from life saying, get out of your head and get into your body, come back home to your heart, right? And that's been a really challenging journey. So countless of those.
This is my first time meeting somebody else that went through psychedelic journeys. And for me, that was the most amazing thing I ever did in my life because it really changed me dramatically. And before I did the journeys, I felt like I was a bad guy. I felt like I was evil, and I felt everything that about me was bad.
Yeah.
And I don't have any place in this world, and the only place I would get into relationships was my comfort zone of people that would make me feel bad.
Yep.
And I never would get in a relationship with someone that would make me feel good.
Yeah.
And if someone would make me feel good, I didn't know how to handle it, and I would run away.
Yeah.
So by me, the psychedelic journey that I took, I relived a moment from when I was 5 years old, and I ran into the corner and I started screaming and crying. And it was so painful, and I was there for 4 hours just screaming and crying on the floor. And the therapist who was guiding me through the journey, he just sat down next to me on the side and was calm. And when I opened my eyes, he says, "Ozzy, that must be so painful." He didn't say, "I know what's your problem." I didn't say, "I know what's your issue." I didn't say, "I can fix you." He just validated my feelings. It was the first time in my life. I was 24 years old.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
and it changed my life.
Yeah.
And trust me, since then it's been a crazy journey, and every day is another journey.
Of course.
But that's because I went through so much craziness with almost dying, with an abusive household, with abusive relationships, with divorce, with all different things. That of course it's not going to change one day to the next. It's like a journey. But I feel like that cracking point for me was the validation of that I exist. So, do you feel like there's any place where you had that cracking point where like it snapped and you're like, oh, I'm a good guy?
Yeah, I think being in this significant relationship, this 5-year relationship with a woman who just wanted to tell me all kinds of horrible things about myself, as I was saying earlier about all I was doing was projecting my inner shame onto another human being who would mirror it back to me. And the reason I stayed is because I believed it. I believed that I'm disgusting. But hearing it over and over and over again for years, that I'm disgusting, I'm disgusting, I'm disgusting, and doing the work of doing the inner work of really waking up to the truth of who I am, which is love. I mean, I'm an innocent human being in the sense that no one ever taught me how to do this shit better. I genuinely believe in the innocence in our ignorance, because if we knew how to do this shit better, we'd fucking do it better. Right? So hearing this person tell me how bad I am for years, after a while, I just got to realize, oh wow, that's not true. I mean, I know I'm not the most skillful human being, but I'm not disgusting. There's nothing to be ashamed of in my sexuality. There's nothing to be ashamed of in the fact that I don't necessarily know what I'm doing in this relationship, and I'm doing my best. And so yeah, hearing that over and over again, I mean, there were literal moments, I almost felt like Neo in the Matrix, right? Where, the Agent Smith is coming at me, and Agent Smith was this woman who was really emotionally abusive, and usually I would try to fight her, and if it's like she's shooting bullets at me, and one emotional verbal bullets, and one would catch me and I'd go, oh, I'm dying. But it was just words. And after a while of kind of experiencing that over and over and over again, I got to see it's like, oh no, I can stop these things. Oh, because they're not real. It's just the insanity of a mind that's in pain coming at me. The trick for me was, when I first started having that experience of sort of waking up in the midst of these barrages, it was like, oh, this isn't true. What I did is I got cold and indifferent first. I checked out into my head, because I was like, oh, I was very intellectual. Oh, this isn't true. Over the years since then, because in that moment, here's a woman in pain. You can't try to hurt someone when you feel good. Right? So in the face of this woman who doesn't feel good, and she's throwing all this shit at me because really she's trying to connect, but I'm just wrapped up in my own wounding. And the first step for me was just waking up to, again, oh, this isn't real. But I abandoned her because I went into my head and was like, oh, this isn't real, and I was sort of an intellectual thing. And really the journey for me has been, again, coming back into my heart and really having compassion for this woman in front of me. I mean, I'm not with her anymore. We broke up years ago, but I've been able to really develop a compassion for both of us,
Now my question is, with
Yeah.
the sex diet, which I was
Oh, yeah.
very impressed with,
Yeah.
what made you come to that realization? Because that's,
Mm-hmm.
was that after the divorce, or?
Oh yeah, the sex diet was something. Well, after I broke up with this woman, yeah, I mean, for a number of years, I would still feel very empty and worthless without a woman. So I saw that I had this story of if I don't have a woman, I have no worth. And I was watching myself use women in all kinds of ways to feel better about myself. Not just sexually, but like energetically. Just getting the attention of a woman was like, ooh, that feels good, because I felt empty. I didn't really feel good about myself. I still didn't feel good about myself. And so, I mean, just flirting with a woman in the supermarket that I had no intention of following up with, that using her basically to feel good about myself. And I noticed how my energy was just leaking all over the place. And I dated a woman for like a month, an amazing, just exquisite woman in every way. And I was using her to fill myself up. And I couldn't show up for her, and it was just so disappointing for both of us. And that's when I realized, okay, I have got to break this pattern. I don't know what's going on, but I need to do a complete, just exhaustive, cut it all off. Everything that I've been doing to get, get from a woman, get energy, gimme, I gotta stop it. And so I did this 30-day fast, which I called the dating diet. And it was, no sex, no flirting, no hunting, no loitering in the produce section, hoping that cute girl handling bananas over there might notice me and I'd feel better about myself, right? None of that. It was really hard. It was actually horrifying.
So, obviously, during that diet,
Yeah.
a lot of different emotions were going, like,
Oh, sure,
you were
man.
going through like a roller coaster a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. The first 7 days were literally horrifying. Because I didn't realize, and one of the things that I did wake up to was how addicted to hope that someone would complete me. I was addicted to that hope of that, right? The you complete me thing. If I find a woman to give me attention, affection, sex, validation, whatever, then I'll feel better about myself. Then everything will be okay. And I was addicted to that, and so I was constantly looking for it. And there's no woman can really give me that ever. Maybe for a second or a minute or a month, but in the end I'm left again with my emptiness.
So how did you self-parent yourself, let's call it, because you never had a childhood and you had to reparent yourself, so you were basically this little kid with an adult body, giving yourself that love and that connection that you never got. So how would you say like that went for you? So like take care, love yourself.
Well, kind of switching gears a little bit here, but because I didn't have men, like most men, I didn't really have men showing me the way into a mature manhood. I was very much an adolescent male for a lot of my adult life, and I unconsciously used women as like the initiatory fires within which I had to burn so that the man could emerge. And I think a lot of men, I think an intimate relationship is a powerful container for our transformation in this lifetime, because again, we don't have any rituals anymore that really help, especially for boys, that help boys emerge into manhood in a conscious, thoughtful, intentional way. We don't have those anymore. So we kind of use women for that. We don't realize it, but we use, the reason that most men don't like so-called easy women is because we got some shit to work through. We're yearning to confront our own mortality so that the mature man can emerge. And I was in the military, so a lot of young boys are drawn to war, drawn to fighting, they're drawn to dangerous behavior because something in us innately yearns to confront death, right? That's how the man emerges finally. The boy dies and the man emerges. But again, because we don't have any thoughtful rituals that bring us through that. And our elder men in the world, they have no fucking clue what's going on either. Most of them are adolescent psychology males at best too. So then we enter into relationship with challenging women because we know they're gonna fucking kill us. And we hate that and we love it at the same time.
You just said something very cute.
Thank you. That happens sometimes.
Because from my little experience in life, I don't have that much experience, but through my journey, I realized that I was creating a cycle, start recycling my father's wounds, my grandfather's wounds. Like, it's all coming from generations, and I feel like your sex diet is breaking the cycle. It's like taking a step back and saying, 1 second, let me see what's going on in the big picture. And let me take charge of my life and not let other people. And I think that's a very deep thing, because I feel like a lot of issues, all different sorts of issues, all based out of that empty void.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the biggest takeaways that I got from doing this sex diet, this 30-day diet, was it was like hitting the reset button on my self-worth. Because until that time, I really was totally dependent on outside circumstances, pretty much women, to make me feel good about myself. By taking 30 days to not put that on them, to not put that on a woman, to really come back home to myself, oh my goodness, man. It's like I just got to be in the world as I am. I had an experience. I was walking through Whole Foods. This was like 2 weeks into this diet. And I was walking through Whole Foods in Venice, where like some of the hottest women on the planet regularly hang out. And before, when I'd gone through that Whole Foods, I'm like looking, hunting, like who's here, like who can I flirt with, or who can I just be around, or something, right? Gimme. But on this sex diet, I'm not allowed to do that, right? So I'm in there to get my groceries, handle my business, and leave. But what was fun is because I was just allowing my sexuality to be, it's like there was no hope anyway that anyone would do anything about it anyway, do anything about having this sexual energy in my body. It's like, well, it's just gonna be there then, right? I walked through Whole Foods, I was so fucking horny, my body was so alive. But what was beautiful is I didn't need anyone to do anything about it. There was no hope of that happening anyway. So I remember walking through and it's like, I just wanted to fuck the world. Like I was just like, I felt like this giant, delicious cock fucking the world with my consciousness.
How do you control yourself? It's so intense.
Well, there was nothing to control. I was just alive. I mean, there was no putting this on someone else to do anything. It's a very mindful exercise. When I wasn't doing the diet is when there's no control. That's when energy's leaking out everywhere. When I was doing the diet for these 30 days, it was just like, I was like just this powerful being, just allowing myself to be. If I don't put my worth on a woman, she can't give it to me, but she also can't take it away. And that's the key. She can't take it away from me because I'm not giving her that power anymore. And that's what the diet did for me. I stopped giving my power to people outside of me, and I just allowed me to be. And that's, we're all sexual beings, most of us, and most of us have shame around that, right? So in that diet, I got to just not be ashamed and just allow it to be. It was fucking amazing. I mean, just like I said, I think that's all any of us in our masculine orientation, we want to just, it's like we're aching to, and I say this in the most beautiful way, we're all aching to fuck the world with our consciousness, with our presence, with our love, right? And I don't just, that's not even a sexual reference. That is a reference to our hearts wanting to just penetrate life with our gift. And all those stories of I'm not worthy makes us contract around giving that gift, and we don't show up fully because we're so scared we're going to be rejected.
Do you feel that after you did this diet and you became more whole within your body, do you feel like you're able to love more fuller?
Yeah, absolutely, because I'm giving from my fullness, not my emptiness. I'm not trying to get to fill something in this, bottomless cup. I'm giving from my fullness. I'm giving from my fullness. I mean, that's a massive difference.
I have just one thing I want to share with you.
Sure.
I did a writing diet.
Okay.
And I got myself an office and I said, I'm just writing.
Okay.
My first 150 pages I wrote, I printed it out. I held it up and I said to myself, what did I just write here?
Okay.
And everything that I was writing was just how I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And I looked at myself and said, this is something that I did. I worked so hard to write. And my whole life I've been told I'm not going to be able to write. I'm not going to be able to do anything. And that was a feeling of like fullness for myself that I actually did it. And that was like a different type of diet that, you know, I definitely feel like I would definitely want to try your diet.
It's totally an adventurous experience. And yeah, if you want to come home to yourself, so the book that I wrote about this, it's called the Sex, Dating, Flirting, Hunting, and Hoping Diet. Give up the insanity and get your life back. Like that's the subtext. Because it's all about giving up the insane stories that make other people responsible for our worth and coming back to sanity, coming back to, all any of us want is to give our gift. It's not even, we're not really here to get shit from the world. Most people who have a lot are fucking miserable because they're not giving. Not everybody, but a lot of people are just so concerned with getting, whether it's from a person or just life, whether it's money or whatever. The people that are really, they're in their joy are the people that are giving from their fullness. That's all any of us really want to experience, is we came here to give our gift. And the sex diet is a one pathway of coming back home to ourselves, so that again we get out of the gimme mode and get into the, oh yeah, let me just give my love. For me, it's been waking up to, I'm already valuable. There's nothing you can validate or invalidate in me, nothing at all. Period. It's just, I'm love. We're all amazing. I'm a child of the universe. You can't give me anything or take anything away from me that I don't already have. Period. You can't give me love that I don't already have. And you can't take it away. Now we just get to play with each other. If we want.
And then it becomes fun.
And then it's a delicious dance.
A
delicious dance.
I like that. A delicious dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
What insights did you learn from all your amazing experiences through your journeys?
Jesus. What insights did I learn through all my amazing experiences? Wow. I mean, I think one of the biggest insights that I've learned is that I've spent so much of my life trying to get love from the world outside of me that I think waking up to the truth of who I am as I am a loving being already. There's nothing you can give me that I don't already have within me, right? Rather than spending all my time trying to get from the world, what I find is that when I just show up and give my gift of love, whatever that looks like in the moment, I mean, things just work. It just works. Things come together. I mean, relationships soar. The work that I do is fun and meaningful, and it's of service. I mean, just everything comes together when I'm really giving my gift versus trying to get shit from the world.
So what about what you're giving to the world is based off your experience?
Everything. I mean, what I'm giving to the world, the core of my work is helping people come home to themselves. Helping people get out of all the crazy, insane stories that we've been taught our whole lives, which are, the stories of lack of worthiness. I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of kindness. Whatever the story may be, helping people come out of that insanity and come back home to themselves. Again, that we're just here to love. We're all love bugs, aching to give our love in whatever way that's authentic for us. And so, I mean, that's been my journey in my lifetime, is waking up to that. And so, I mean, the work that I do as a coach, the work that I do as a writer, it's all about kind of turning around. It's like I have an insight or something in my life, I go through something and something in me wakes up to a deeper truth, a deeper reality, a deeper love. And what I do is I just turn around and offer that to the people in my midst that are watching or that could be served by what I'm waking up to, at what I call at the edge of my truth.
If you were given a chance to like help people, like what would be your point? You're like, how would you sum up all your work into like giving out a message to somebody?
Well, it's kind of what I just said. I mean, the core of my work is helping us remember who we are. It's helping us remember the love that we are. The amazing, I mean, what I was talking about in that dating diet, when I stopped putting my self-worth on the world around me and I started just showing up fully embodied with the magnificent, alive, sexual and brilliant creature that I am, that we all are, and just walking through the world radiating that. I mean, Jesus, man, I was alive. I mean, that is an experience of really being alive, and that's when I can really show up with my gifts, and that's all I think any of us are aching for. All any of us are aching for is to really give our love, give our gift, give our unique wisdom, our unique offering to the planet, the thing that we came here to give. Most people aren't doing that because they're so caught up in, I gotta get something, I gotta survive, I gotta make money. So that's my work. My work, when I was in the military, I had everything. I had prestige. I was making great money. I was a captain in the Airforce. I mean, I had adventure. I had a good woman. I had a home. I had a car. I had everything. I was fucking miserable. And most of the world seems so caught up in having that everything, so that then, because once I have everything, then I'll be okay. That's the story we believe. And it's not true. It doesn't work because people get everything on the outside world that they think they want, and they're not happy. It doesn't work. In fact, most people get everything and then they're fucking miserable because they thought it was supposed to happen out there. So really, it's about doing the inner work, about coming home again, coming home to ourselves, waking up to the truth of who we are. Now, in that place, we're free to give. We're not stuck in the getting anymore. We're free to just show up and fucking give. Give our love, give our gift, give our talent. I mean, you guys are all doing this and showing up, and you have video editing skills, and you're amazing at holding that thing and, and asking questions and holding the container for all of this. I mean, you guys are giving your gift, and look what you're doing. You're creating a story that's going to serve, God, who knows how many people and how it's going to serve them by showing up with your passion and giving your gift. And that's all any of us really want to do on this planet.
From hearing your story and getting to know you, I see that you're a man that understands. Pick up that they're suffering something, and you wish you could just show them the way, but they're stuck.
Uh-huh.
How would you deal with that? Like inside of you have that energy that wants to just like understand already, like what's going on with you. At the same time, it's gotta like.
I've come a long way. I'm mostly over the energy of trying to convince other people to think anything other than what they want to think. I'm not here I'm not in the business of changing your mind. You're allowed to think whatever you want to think. I've been through stuff and I've seen things, and it's kind of like I think Gandhi or someone said, "My life is my message." So by me just showing up, and as a writer and a coach, and I do videos, and just by me showing up and going kind of like, "Rawr, world, here's what I see, and here's what whoever resonates with that will get something from it, and who doesn't, they'll go back to watching cat videos on YouTube, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to convince the skeptics. I'm not here to, there are some people that really want, they want their story of victimhood. They want it. It serves them. Cool. If it's not your time because that really serves you well, I mean, if you want to work with me, if you want to be in a conversation, awesome. But I'm not in the habit of convincing the skeptics. There's way too many people hungry to see a new possibility for themselves. Those are the conversations I really love to engage in, not the ones that want to hold on to their victim story.
That's really amazing. Like,
it's very liberating for me.
Yeah, I don't hear such things too often. Like, people usually, I know the way and I know how to change. Like, it's really good to hear.
Well, I spent a lot of my life like that, and I saw over and over again, and even an intimate relationship, trying to get my girlfriend to think differently about me. Exhausting and futile and damaging in and of itself, right? So spending all that time trying to get someone to think differently about me, and in the end, all I realized was, oh, I'm trying to convince myself by trying to convince her, right? It's like it all comes back to myself. To me, it's about self-love.
Where do you see yourself getting with all this in 10, 15 years from now? Like, what's your dream, vision, goal? Like,
You know, I don't really think in terms of 10, 15 years. I just sort of think, I see globally that we're a world in pain. And I'm not here to save the world. There's no world to save. What I'm here to do is to serve the world, one awakened man, one illuminated woman, and one thriving intimate relationship at a time. Because like the Dalai Lama and my grandmother said, world peace through inner peace. Not everyone can do big, great things, but everyone can be kind. So I don't know what happens in 15 years. I don't know what happens in 3 months. I just know that today I'm here to love and to show up fully and like have conversations like this and be really raw and honest and just be naked so people can see my experience and learn from it if it serves them, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean, it's really that simple. What inspires me is I have 3 sisters and 2 mothers. I grew up surrounded by amazing female energy, and I look out into a world and I see a world of men that are in pain because they didn't have men showing them the way into adulthood. I have men who don't know how to be with their intimate partners, and I see women who are in deep, deep pain because the world keeps telling them you're either too much or not enough. And what keeps me going is that every time I share my experience, every time I wake up a little bit and I write a blog or I do a video or I coach a couple and they have an epiphany, that I see people's hearts open. I see men that are able to love women or men or the world in more of its fullness. I see women that are able to express themselves and relax and give the gift of their radiance and their joy and their whatever it is. Like, that is a world I want to live in. I want to live in a world where we are all fully expressed in our beauty and our brilliance and radiance, and we can love each other in that place. I want to live in that world, and that's what keeps me going every day.
so what would be your message to the people that love and lost and haven't found healing yet?
There's only one relationship in the end that really matters, and that's the relationship with ourselves. And I believe, because it's been my experience, that every relationship, that every love that I've lost that has just eviscerated me, ripped me open, it hasn't, I heard a friend of mine say once, when, it's kind of silly, but if you have a dog, you'll understand. My stepmother lost her Chihuahua, died suddenly one day, and that Chihuahua had not left her side for 14 years. So she was like catatonic. She was totally, I'd never seen her like this. And a friend of mine said, we were doing a circle, kind of a little healing circle, and he said this really beautiful thing about how this was an experience where her heart was breaking open. And that really reframed heartbreak for me, because most of us orient towards heartbreak as a bad thing, like now I'm wounded and I'm damaged and oh, woe is me. Well, when we really open up to what's happening here, and this heartbreak experience is really an opportunity for us to keep our heart open, even when life would have us close it because something supposedly bad has just happened. That's the epitome of spiritual practice, is keeping our heart open even when life would have us close it. That is the deepest work any of us can ever do. And if we're going to wake up to the love that we are, that's what happens, right? In the face of closure, when life comes at us, whether it's traffic or heartbreak from a relationship, the capacity to keep our heart open despite what's happening, man, that is the deepest and most beautiful spiritual practice any of us could ever engage in. And that's the world that I want to live in, that we're all able to keep our hearts open to each other even when we don't really understand what's happening or think each other's crazy.
It takes a lot of courage.
Courage. What is at the root of the word courage is heart, right? Cour, it comes from the French word heart. Absolutely.
Wow, thank you so much. Is there
One more question.
one last question?
Cool.
What purpose do you find in your experience of loving, losing, and letting go?
What purpose do I find in loving, losing, and letting go? Again, what purpose do I find? What purpose do I find? All of life, for me, in my experience, all of my life, moment by moment, is an invitation to either open my heart or close it. So every heartbreak I've ever had has been an opportunity to just open my heart, take the armor off my heart. It's like there's two choices. I can go cynical and be angry and start to see an awful world that's out to get me, or I can soften the armor, kind of let the armor down and see a friendly universe in which everything happens for me, not to me. So that's the purpose that I find in broken hearts. Oh, they're exquisitely awful.
So you would say that there's two ways to deal with it: either go into the reality of the story and learn from it, or to go into blame, shame, and guilt, and then you're just falling behind and recreating the same story over and over.
Yeah, well, one of the teachers that I studied from said, you can argue with reality, but you're going to lose 100% of the time.
Plus tax.
That's right. So, life is happening. Life happens. People leave us. They die. They cheat. They lie. Humans, we're flawed by nature in a sense, right? So life happens. And again, in the face of life happening, we can get angry about it and resist it and get resentful, which just, to me, that doesn't feel good in my own body. And I've chosen it plenty of times. And I've seen, in my intimate relationships, I've seen women choose it as well. And nobody wins in that experience. Everyone feels terrible. So, it's happening. The practice for me is to embrace it, is to open my heart. It doesn't mean I don't work for change. It doesn't mean that I don't handle business or really step up responsibly to meet whatever situation is unfolding. But I can meet any scenario with anger and resistance, in which case I'm probably just going to create more anger and resistance, or I can meet it with love and appreciation for what it is here to teach me. And in that place, oh man, the world just opens up.
I think there's a difference. Sex can be very regenerative. And one of the ladies was talking earlier about circulating that energy in the body and learning that as a practice to actually, that sexual energy can be very, very regenerative and constructive, something we can use, right? Rather than something we just empty out of our balls, right? Because we're tense from life, which is how most of us practice masturbation. It's like, I'm tense, and then we go to sleep, right? So it's really powerful what you're asking, and I'd love that we're all in this conversation. And I think, men, we don't need to ejaculate as much as we think we really want to.
The pleasure of the male is in the pleasure of the feminine, not in the ending of his own pleasure.
Beautifully said. Yeah. That's a huge statement. Thank you.
You can ask any man in the street what is truly deeply pleasurable, and that is his woman's orgasm, not his own.
Pleasing your woman. And
Plastic, and some cities can't breathe the air, right? And women are still exploited and raped. I could go on and on and on, because again of that denial of the feminine, of the body. So for me, that's that's been the beginning of my journey, and the workshops that I do and retreats and the blogs that I write and the conversations I have, everything is in service of just that. I do this because it's the yin yang symbol, one flowing into the other. And so again, Tantra, I need to study with you ladies, because that's just, they didn't teach me that in the Air Force, Tantra. So
Thank you. Mark?
Pornography, or there's all kinds of ways that masculine energy decides, I'm not going to show up today because this is way too fucking hard, I can't figure it out. I'm going to go solve problems at work because it's easier. Or watch sports. I'm going to put on the football game because in 90 minutes I'll know if the problem was solved. But this marriage, fuck, when is that going to end? Right? So that's kind of the dynamic that happens to the masculine mind that doesn't know what's going on. Any other shares? Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sure. This is Mango.
Mango?
Yeah, Mango.
Okay.
So we used to be in a relationship, but we're just friends now. And I thought it was really interesting because, like,
39, it just wrecked my body. Like it was tuning my body to. So in the course of an hour, I could watch 40 videos, different women, over and over and over again. And I found that being with a real woman, flesh and blood, she couldn't compete with that. She couldn't compete. And my body didn't really respond to an actual woman's body the way that pornography just excited me, right? So I think a lot of it too is in the way that we're using porn, right? Because I know that there are some, and I agree with this, I mean, I think there are healthy uses of erotic, stimulating, sensual imagery and art, and I think that's really valuable, but the vast majority of the way that, and I'm going to just speak for men, we use it is just to get our rocks off and release.
And I did a lot of research in my work.
How many of you are aware of any sexual shame in you? Like just shame of being sexual.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your honesty. Thank you.
This is why pornography exists, I believe, in the way that it does. We are so ashamed of our sexuality. I am a heterosexual man attracted to women my age with vaginas. It doesn't get any more sort of just vanilla than that. And yet, I have shame about that. There's shame in my body to want sex, to want to be sensual with a woman. And I've only gotten aware of that in the last few years. So most of my life, I grew up with this sort of, as a little child, I was taught, don't touch your penis, it's dirty, and be liked. I chose more of the castration route. And so, pornography, thank you, it's very sweet. So, this is very erotic, I'm having a moment. So, pornography became, talk about the sort of culture, pornography going together. Pornography was this sort of secret, dirty little thing that I did, over here onto the side that I didn't talk about. Started with just masturbation, that porn and all that. And of course, it was done, most of the porn was done for dirty little boys like me, right? Because I could not communicate powerfully, effectively with a woman about my sexuality without being attached to her doing something about it, right? I couldn't communicate that, so I would just do this dirty little thing over here in porn, and it was safer, meanwhile hiding all that shame. And these women in porn, yes, they are so happy for me to come all over their face, right? It's like every woman, this big smile, this sort of submissive, yeah, daddy, come all over me kind of thing. I don't know why I went to daddy. Anyway. Ladies, I just want you to know that men have daddy issues too. So I think absolutely it is so culturally mirrored. I mean, the two go hand in hand. And I noticed that as I really move through my shame about being sexual and learn how to just express that and be with that, and I'm a writer, I write so publicly about all of this stuff, that, porn is still there, but there's a different one of the things that porn does is it allows men to not have to show up powerfully with real women. So, it's interesting. I mean, the two always go hand in hand, I believe. The sort of the culture and the personal experience in porn. And anyway, that's just a little bit of insight on my journey with that as a man. So thanks, y'all.
So such a short period of time, but that capacity to breathe and take in our partners no matter how they're showing up. Now, it doesn't mean we stay in a dysfunctional relationship, something that genuinely has dysfunctional therapeutic problems. But most of our relationship challenges are not therapeutic. Like, we don't need therapy. I have a master's degree in human behavior, and I just instinctively knew I wasn't called to be a therapist. I'm a coach because with a few little shifts in awareness and how we're showing up in this masculine feminine dance, I noticed a lot of women in here felt really uncomfortable in their bodies. There was, sort of even stillness. I could see that. And I could see a lot of men, kind of silly, smiling, collapsing, going for the hug. Yeah, let's hug. Nothing wrong with any of it. But that shows up in our relationships, and we're deeply dissatisfied often because that same lack of center, lack of presence on the masculine counterpart, and even on the feminine, the same kind of shutdown. Because you're in so much pain, in a lot of cases, the only thing you could express would be pain. There's a lot of healing we have to do. I get that. I totally get that. But now, if you two are in a relationship and his capacity, him developing the capacity to breathe and hold you, we could do this actual exercise if we had more time, and you just rage on him, and you get, it's just energy that's stuck. And you didn't feel safe to share it with him because you knew he couldn't handle it. Most men can't. Most men are horrified of feminine rage.
And what ended up happening was problems arose. He would tell me I had problems that I had never heard of in my entire life. Like that, everyone had said the exact opposite. Like, you do this, and this. And I'm like, well, everyone else in my life has said the opposite. And same with him. He'd be like, no other woman in my life has ever said I have these issues that you have said that I have. So
yeah. And then there's all the projected stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, we're constantly projecting onto our partners. So, I mean, it would be amazing to work with the two of you. We would have a field day. But that's pretty much any couple. You're not alone in that. Again, remember, if there's one thing you take from this, it is that we are all innocent in our ignorance. If we knew how to do this better, we would do it better. Yay! Quick question, yeah.
So, when I first started doing the deep breathing, I started to feel like a fire in my belly and then in my chest, like this powerful feeling. And yet then once she started, sort of dancing around and moving her hips, I felt that I sort of collapsed, and I sort of started almost dancing with her, and I sort of lost my strength.
Absolutely. I saw a lot of men getting seduced into the feminine's wily ways. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, I get it. I love it. But that's the thing also that takes us from our purpose, that takes us off our mission, our masculine mission. And it's like women want us to be seduced, and then they don't respect us when we allow it. But that's their erotic sort of push and pull of eroticism. I mean, we love that. We really love that. We love that we can't figure them out. We love that when we give them what they want, they're not happy. We actually really like that. We don't realize it because it challenges us. It really, the masculine force in us rises to challenge. We want a masculine person wants a woman that he will never be able to figure out.
I always attract women that I can't get.
You always attract women that you can't get.
Whether that be they're not emotionally available or they're in a relationship or whatever.
Well, you and I would have a field day as well. I want to just wrap up. How much time? I think we only have a few minutes left. I just want to make some quick final announcements, and then if there's any time, and then we'll take more questions until they kick us out. But I'm so grateful for all of you. I mean, I can see how hungry we are for this. I mean, this is my journey. I'm starving for this as well. And I work with couples, I work with individuals to do this work.
and I'm offering some free coaching sessions. There's a clipboard back by the table. I have an email list. I blog for some amazing websites, and I'm very raw about what I write and share about all this stuff. And finally, I'm having a retreat, a 2-day retreat near Los Angeles in July. I've got beautiful flyers over there. There's a $500 discount for Lightning in a Bottle participants only. So talk to me about that, or Alex back at the table. So let me take some more questions until they kick us off. Yes?
You mentioned earlier that there was ways that women could subtly kind of mesh with the masculine energy without emasculating him. Was that just giving feedback?
So she was asking about ways that feminine energy can dance. I just use the word dance a lot. Dance with masculine energy without being emasculating. So one of the number one things that you can do with a masculine person is stop telling them what to do. Stop giving them direction.
How do you do feedback without saying, like, I feel when you do this? Like,
well, feedback's fine. But what I'm saying is there's a difference between feedback and criticism or direction. Feedback is, this is what I feel. Sure, when you do this, this is what I feel. Or, take driving. Try telling a man how to drive. It doesn't go over well, right? And it's not about telling a man how to drive. If a woman is driving and she's in her masculine and you tell her how to drive, she's gonna say fuck off. The masculine does not want to be told what to do. But if you say, I don't feel safe, right? I acknowledge, it's like respecting the right of the masculine to do what it will do, but taking care of yourself in the process. So if your masculine partner is doing something that you don't like that they're doing, it doesn't feel good, communicating, giving the feedback, I don't feel good, and if they're not willing to step up and address it, then you address it by leaving. I'm gonna go. That's your mantra. It's so important that you take care of yourself, especially if your masculine partner is not willing to step up and meet you there. And by the way, this goes into sexuality also, right? Meeting a woman sexually, feeling her body, not just imagine, most men make love for themselves. Even when it comes to pleasing a woman, it's not about pleasing you, it's about making me look good, right? That's how most men approach sexuality. So, but in the work that we're doing here, we're really talking about kind of next level loving, which is really giving our gift. And even in sexuality, giving the gift of our love means feeling, I'm not gonna touch you, means feeling our partner and feeling like, what does she need right now, right? Because the difference between turning her on and turning her off sexually could be just, the subtlest movement could turn her off. If I touch her wrong, and then I'm not responsive, I don't feel her, I'm not even gonna know I hurt her. I'm not even gonna know why she's turned off, and then suddenly she's gonna be really turned off because I'm still doing the thing, and either she's not telling me or I'm just not getting it, and she's not gonna wanna have sex with me pretty quick. And then I'm gonna be upset, and then blame it, you're frigid, or there's a problem with you, or why don't you want sex? And meanwhile, I had no idea how to show up for her. I couldn't feel her. I'm doing the male checkout thing, and I just want to get laid. I just want to empty my balls. Right? Did you get that on camera? Good. So, this is both relational and intimate, and just the relationship dynamic itself, but it's also sexual. This is also, and it's with the whole world as well. Men are checked out, and I don't mean men, but masculine energy, we're checked out all over the world. It's why our planet, our oceans are filling up with plastic. It's the same phenomenon at play on the world scale as it is in our own bodies. You gotta let them figure it out. If you want to be the feminine partner, you've got to let your masculine partner solve the problem, figure it out. Otherwise, you're turning him into your little boy, you're turning him into your son or your girlfriend, which is okay. But most heterosexual women don't want a girlfriend. They want a man.
14 years old. You know what? The thing about flying is an expression of freedom. And I think a lot of young boys go into the military. They're confronting, the military is sort of this this place where we get to confront our mortality, confront death, right? And young boys, in all initiation rituals throughout history, boys, the boyhood to manhood initiation involves confronting death, right? So there's that draw of the military. And then there's also, the flight, I mean, freedom, right? The irony, though, is that you're not free in the military at all. You, quite the opposite. I mean, you become kind of this machine thing that actually it's interesting. I mean, it's like you sacrifice your own freedom for the sake of this bigger idea of freedom of a people, of a country. But the military was really painful for me. The military was really painful for me. Should we keep going? Yeah. We're good. Yeah, the military was really painful for me because I had this heart that wanted to just play huge in the world. That just I wanted to just love the world. I didn't know this at the time, but I wanted to offer service to the world in ways that, again, I couldn't even have articulated. But the military, I went in when I was like 17 years old, and I signed papers that basically kept me in the military for the next 10 years. So, when I went to college, and then I went in the military, and I'm a lieutenant, and this 22, 23 years old, and I'm now dealing with the decisions that a 16-year-old boy made at 23, and it was so out of alignment with how I really wanted to serve in the world. And it was really hard. It was really painful. It was really painful because I wanted to be free. I wanted to be free to follow my heart. And the military it's not what you do in the military. You don't follow your heart in the military, at least not my heart. I always knew the military was not for me from pretty much right when I got into ROTC in college. But I was so in love with being in college, and the military was paying my way, that it was kind of, again, I was 17 years old. What do I know? So I just went through college and ROTC, and then I went into active duty, and oh man, I mean, I knew from the beginning that the military was killing me, squelching my soul. But I was contracted. I was under contract to stay for 4 years. It turned out to be 5. So, I mean, I knew I was going to get out. There was never a question. So I got out. I mean, I just left. First chance I really could, I left. And I think what's more interesting here is not about the decision to leave, but about who was I when I left? I was dead inside. I was completely cut off from my body. I couldn't laugh, not really. I couldn't cry. I couldn't really feel anything. And I was 26 years old, had an amazing girlfriend at the time. I had money. I had a house. I had a car. I had everything that you're supposed to want that makes you happy. I had prestige. I had a uniform. I had all these things, and I was just miserable. So when a lot of my friends were also leaving the military, or maybe staying on, or leave, but they were just kind of going to the next step, which is like a government, like a contractor job, Lockheed Martin or Boeing, or even re-upping in the military and making more money and all that stuff. Like for me, it wasn't a decision. It just was not who I was at the time. And so I just went traveling. I just gave my things away, gave up my car to my sister, put my things in storage, broke up with my girlfriend, poor lady, and I just went backpacking. I went to Europe, and I just started traveling, man. I was like, I started growing my hair long, got earrings and facial hair, and started smoking weed, and I needed to go the opposite spectrum from the rigid military life. I had to go to the whole opposite side of that to just completely free, I went hitchhiking. I mean, everything. I let my body go free. I let my heart. But the thing is, I wasn't free at all, because the military, that experience, and not just the military, but I think culturally also, we're taught to worship the intellect. So we disconnect from our body. So I was in prison in my thoughts, in my brain, in my head. The military just made that worse, because the military purposefully disconnects you from your body. I mean, that's what the military does, because the military knows that You can't take life if you feel connected to life. So the military disconnects you from life, from the body, and makes you live up here. So anyway, 26 years old, I get out. Man, I'm just so lost. I'm angry at God. I'm angry at life. I'm angry because I don't know why this experience had to happen. It was really, I just was angry. So I just went traveling. And I mean, that journey was really the beginning of my journey of coming home to myself. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but even on that journey, I descended even deeper into darkness because, I don't know, I guess I wanted to feel something, and I couldn't feel anything good, and so I was drawn to darkness because, I don't know, I guess that's where you feel shit. I'm not sure. But I needed to hurt myself. I mean, really what I needed to do was crack myself open. And, and I did that. I mean, a couple months, I went traveling, went through Australia and Egypt. I just wandered the planet for a couple years. And I went to some of the darkest places I could imagine. I went to Auschwitz in Poland, the concentration camp. I stayed there for 3 days. I went on a pilgrimage. Most people go for an afternoon. I stayed for 3 days in the fields of Auschwitz. This was a few months after 9/11 in 2001, because I wanted to feel something. I wanted to break my heart open. I didn't know this at the time. This wasn't a conscious thing. It's just what I was intuitively drawn to, this path. I needed to hurt myself, and and Auschwitz didn't do it. Actually, what did it was women, for the most part, because women, wow, entering into relationships with women from a place where I can't really feel anything, women don't stand for that very long. Women will, and I chose women who were really strong and unforgiving because I needed my ass kicked. I needed women. Like I had my girlfriend when I was in the military. She was amazing, such a good woman. I was bored with her. She was not going to kick my ass. She was not going to crack me open. Again, I'm not conscious of any of this at the time. It's all in retrospect that I can see what I was doing, what I was drawn to, what was happening. But yeah, we're talking about the love story here, and intimate love, intimacy with women is what really was I call it these women were the transformational fires within which I had to burn for the man that I am still becoming to really be born. How you like them apples?
I'm hearing that looking for it was more an emotional validation.
I'm not looking for validation. I am. We live in a world that I see now. I didn't know this at the time, but again, we live in a world that is very suspicious of the body, very suspicious of emotion, right? Look, we as little boys, what are we told by our fathers, by the people around us? Don't be a girl. Don't be a pussy, right? Boys don't cry. All of those things, right? We are taught to disconnect from our bodies. We're even taught shame around sexuality. Right? Don't touch your penis. It's dirty. That's sort of the mentality, And then there's the whole, boys just want to get in girls' pants. Right? There's all of this stuff. There's all of this crazy shit that we're taught as boys that teaches us, don't cry, be strong, be stoic, don't feel anything. And women get the message too, that this feminine expression, this embodied way of being is to not be trusted. Right? So I grew up with that, and then I went into the military, which again just drove me further into my head. And then I tried to do relationships with women who are feminine predominantly, which means that they are connected more to the body. They're more expressive, more emotional, right? They're much more inhabiting in their body. And as a man, I don't understand what's happening. So I wasn't looking for validation though. I was looking for my own body. I was looking for my own laughter. I didn't have laughter, Ozzy. Do you know what that's like? Have you ever not had laughter?
Yep.
It's fucking excruciating.
It is.
Right? I didn't have that. A lot of men don't have that. So that's the journey that I really was on, is looking for my laughter in a sort. I mean, that's one way of framing it. I was looking for my laughter, looking for my joy. And I had to hurt deeply to crack myself open. You know, Rumi has this beautiful quote: "The wound is where the light enters you."
I would like you to share the times in your life that you've struggled.
Which of the billions of times would you like to hear about?
The time that you felt so lost and you just felt like it was over.
Which of the billions of times when I felt lost and felt like it was over would you like to hear about?
The one that is the most painful for you.
Jesus, the most painful? Well, there was the time I had a nervous breakdown in a phone booth in Wales, right after I got out of the military. There was the time when I was in a relationship with a woman that was just, multiple women. I've hit that bottom, where just wanting something from this human being that she was just incapable of offering, and burning in the agony of that, because I couldn't find it in myself. Which relationship would you like to talk to about that? There's that phrase, trying to get blood from a stone. My relationship experiences, the ones in which I just had to burn in fire, I was trying to get love, validation, self-worth, something from them, and no mortal woman can love perfectly, in the sense of can give me what I don't already have. And that's shown up in every past relationship, right? That belief that I'm gonna get something from you to feel better about myself.
So I assume that when you were going through that, you didn't have the same understanding that you have now.
That's right.
So could you explain me how you dealt with it? Like, how did you come to that understanding?
Well, first off, my heart had to break over and over again. Just again, the agony of failed relationships. I turned 36 years old and had just gotten out of another disastrous relationship with a woman. And I figure, I have 2 moms, 3 sisters, I have a master's degree in human behavior. I should fucking know how to do relationships with women. And they never really worked well. And so there I am at 36 years old, reeling from another failed experience, asking myself, what am I missing? What the hell am I missing? I'm super educated and I'm very comfortable with women. Why can't I figure out this intimacy? And that was when, at 36, I'm 41 now, so it's 5 years ago, that's that question, what am I missing? And the desire to follow that thread of inquiry and that question is what really got me to where I am today, in terms of, it's a never-ending journey. There's always, it's not like you arrive and all of a sudden now I know how to do relationships and I know all about women and intimacy. Hell no. If anything, it's learning to bow at the feet of the mystery. Rather than in the past, I was always trying to solve the mystery and solve women and figure them out and understand them and get them to be a certain way so that they would make sense to me. And what I've really woken up to on my journey is that women I'm not supposed to understand them. I'm just supposed to love them.
If you can give me like a story, how you woke up, how you got this realization.
Well, sure. So my last relationship, the one that really just eviscerated me and brought me to my knees was with a woman that, I wanted her to love me more than anyone else in the world. I wanted her to think a certain way about me. I wanted her to think good thoughts about me, to see me in a certain kind of light, and she often didn't. She was very wounded and angry herself, and she didn't feel safe with me, not physically, but emotionally. And what I've woken up to is everything I was trying to get from her, all the love and the validation and the identity, well, that's who I already am. I am love. I don't need a woman to love me. I am love. We're all love. I'm just here to give my gift to the world, whatever that is. You know, that's I'm here to just love. And oh my God. Like, again, you're talking to a man that was very intellectual, stuck in my head, not really present emotionally. I mean, I could be angry. It's like I had two emotions, anger and indifference, and fuck. 3 emotions, anger, indifference, and fuck. Fuck's an emotion. It means I want to have sex with you. I don't want to have sex with you, Ozzy. I'm talking about the, you can laugh, it's okay. Right? As most men that kind of live in those 3 places, right? So the first time I took mushrooms though, what happened in my body, oh my God, I mean, the way this plant, I mean, it's, you know, it's medicine, because of the way that it settled me into my body and the way that I relaxed. And then, oh my God, the giggle that started to arise, the laughter, I had never laughed from that place in my body before. I didn't even know you could laugh from where I was laughing from. That is what I had been desperate to find. I didn't even know. Right? So, I mean, that was the first time I took mushrooms. It gave me my laughter.
That first laughter, was it like, did you feel like, what is this? Like, you obviously didn't experience it before, so like, was there like a shame and guilt within yourself, like saying, no, this is not for me?
No,
or like it just went
God,
smooth?
no, shit, no, man. This was like, oh, that's fucking nice. That was like, ooh, that's what it's like. Oh my God, because I have 3 sisters, and they looked like they could laugh. You know, my sister, one of my sisters, Casey, she's amazing. She would walk through a department store and she'd see a pair of yellow socks and she'd go fucking apeshit crazy, excited. I'm finding these yellow socks. It was like, how does anyone be that excited about socks? I was envious of that excitement because I didn't have access to it, right? So when I finally, that laughter that came from it was like, oh, this is what it's like to be excited about socks. That was exhilarating. I mean, I didn't have that thought, but yeah, I mean, it's like, oh my God, this is laughter. This is, this is my body. This is joy. I'd never had access to that before. So it was there was no resistance in me whatsoever. I mean, it was exhilarating. Now, you know, that experience lasted a few hours and then it was over. So I'd achieved this kind of state, but I wasn't living there yet. Right? Because I just tasted something. I had a moment of awakening, if you will. But then I came back, you know, the mushroom thing kind of, you know, it does what it does and it goes away, and then I'm kind of back in my body. Or, well, I'm back in the stage that I was in before, but now I had the taste of something. I had like the muscle memory of this way of being that was like, oh my God, this is juicy. Whoa, what was that? But it still took me years. You know, today, I can laugh every time I laugh from that place, which happens routinely, all the time now. I never take that for granted. That was a taste the first time I did that, but then, I mean, I had to, again, relationships, particularly with women, because I still was very much in my head, and I would always engage with women who would not let me stay there, even though I tried. And so there was a lot of chaos, because these women, they didn't know what they were doing either. They were just as unconscious as I was of what was going on, but these women were begging, they wanted to feel me, and I didn't want to feel, right? I didn't want to, like, feminine energy connects through emotion, right? Masculine energy, we connect through intellect. We talk about stuff. You know, we connect up here at the level of thought. Feminine energy connects at the level of heart, at the level of embodiment. And I see this in a lot of men and women that I work with in my coaching practice, that, you know, men are checked out because it just means we've run into our intellectual happy place, which isn't that happy. It's pretty lonely up there, right? And their women are down here in the body saying, I need to feel you. Where are you? Where'd you go? Like, I don't feel connected to you. And men are going, what the fuck do you mean you don't feel connected to me? I'm right here. We're talking, right? So, I mean, that was the dynamic that I was experiencing my women wanted to feel me, and I wanted to stay up here. So that the chaos of that and my willingness to ask the question, what am I missing? Right? To follow that inquiry is what really has opened my eyes to all of this stuff. And yeah, there's been all kinds of practices, not just mushrooms and ayahuasca, but just all of the workshop experiences I've done. You know, I did something with a woman named Byron Katie. She wrote a book called Loving What Is. And she has a whole process called The Work, where you question your stressful thoughts. I did her school for 9 days, just questioning stressful, crazy thoughts. And it's fascinating. In that experience, I'd been broken up with my girlfriend at the time, and because I was spending all this time questioning the thoughts, questioning my intellect, it was really a way of dropping into my heart. And I finally could hear my girlfriend. I was in this 9-day school. He was here in LA, and I heard probably a 60-year-old black woman talking about her judgments and complaints and pains, her sadness around men. I heard my ex-girlfriend for the first time through the words of this 60-year-old black woman. And my girlfriend was not a 60-year-old black woman. She was a 35-year-old Latina. But I heard her, and it destroyed me, because I heard what I had been missing. I heard the emotional yearning that I was completely disconnected from in the relationship, and it fucking broke my heart.
Could you share with us the story that made you become the relationship insight ninja coach?
What you want to know is what fucking ripped my heart out.
Yes.
That put me on the path to doing the work that I do today. Is that the question?
Yes.
That is the question. You know, it's funny. So, yes, I'm a relationship coach. I work with couples. I work with men and women, and to help them see the patterns, the dynamics in a relationship that we're all ignorant to. And the reason that I'm doing this is because I was fucking ignorant my whole life, because no one taught me how to really show up for a woman. And so I got into relationships with women over and over again, and I didn't show up. I'm a good guy, you know, a good person. I think I'm a good listener, like I have good people skills, you know, all of that. I'm a good dude. I got a good heart. Man, my relationships were disastrous. The ones that I chose. Again, the easy relationships, I didn't want those, man. Give me the hard shit. Give me the shit that's gonna break me open. Again, because I needed to learn. So the relationship that I would say, I mean, you know, it started with the woman that I married in France 5 weeks after I met her when I was 27. But she just got the work started. Really, the relationship that just brought me to my fucking knees was with a Latin woman when I lived in Miami. This was a woman, I mean, wow, she was amazing. I mean, she was like my fantasy in every way. She was gorgeous. She was funny. She was brilliant. She was witty. I mean, she was feminine. She was incredible. I think she was maybe 28 or 29. I was 2 years older than her, so I was probably 30, 31 when we met. And man, that relationship really destroyed me, because again, I just didn't know how to show up for her, and I didn't know how to be a masculine presence for her. You know, I grew up in a world where I was taught that women are strong and can take care of themselves, and that's true. But I made that mean that women are the same as me. Like, women don't need me. Women they're equal, which also means the same. Other than our genitalia, we're the same. And so I oriented towards my girlfriend as though, you know, look, you take care of you and I'll take care of me, and we'll meet in the middle and somehow make magic. And that just didn't work. That just didn't work, because we were masculine and feminine people doing a dance together, right? But I had no awareness of this. So she was yearning for something from me that I didn't know how to give her. You know, I wanted her to be completely self-sufficient. I wanted her to, you know, one of the things that I realized actually is I spent so much time trying to convince her to think a certain way. Okay, so early in our relationship, I lied to her. I told her a lie about an ex-girlfriend that she found out about 4 months later, right? We had been sleeping together. We weren't even dating. We were sleeping together for 2 weeks. And then I went on a business trip to Switzerland. I ended up going on this side trip to France with this woman that I was seeing. She lived in Jakarta, Indonesia. Had kind of a jet-setting lifestyle for a while. And so I had girlfriends kind of around the planet kind of thing. But then I met this girl in Miami, this woman in Miami, this Latin woman that would become the most significant woman of my life. But I wasn't quite out of my jet-setting lifestyle yet. And so I lied to her about that. And she found out a few months later, and that destroyed her. It triggered an old wound of hers. And so, but it happened early enough in the relationship that it wasn't like a betrayal, because we didn't have a commitment at the time. But I still lied. You know, when I came home from this trip, she asked me, were you with anyone when you were in Europe with another woman? And I told her no, and it was a lie. And that was only like 2 weeks after we started being with each other. 4 months later, when we were ready to really be monogamous, she found out that I had been on that trip with this other woman right at the beginning, and I lied to her. And that began our descent into chaos. But by that time, it's like, oh, it was a perfect fucking setup. It's like life engineered this perfectly for me to really learn what I had to learn. We were already 4 months in. We're in it. We're like, let's do this. And then she finds this out. And so, oh man, what that did, it's like we both wanted to be in it, but now we had this huge question of integrity, of trust. And I was, again, 30, 31 years old, and no one had taught me how to be a man for a woman. Now, I lied, but I wasn't even man enough to take responsibility for that. You know, I kind of blamed it on, well, you told me you didn't want a boyfriend at the time, so, you know, I didn't really owe you that information. You know, I just deflected, right? And I kept that up for months. We ended up staying together for about 5 years altogether, but the whole time was sort of, I call it that original sin, like that lie that I told. And so what I got to experience in that relationship was, and I wasn't really ready to face it, but I got to see my lack of integrity. I got to see, you know, here's this woman, now here's this Latin woman who's raging because she's heartbroken. And she wasn't even dealing with just what I had done. I mean, she had run away she had a previous wound from she had been married before, and her husband had cheated on her, and she never dealt with it. And so now she showed up, and now I do this thing that's kind of close to what happened, but not really. But it triggered that sort of abandonment, trust stuff. And I still wasn't mature enough to really be with it and be powerful with it. And you know, I remember, it was chaos, and she would just rage at times because she was in her pain. And I did that thing that most men do when a woman is raging. I go, calm down, calm down, calm down. I'm not going to talk to you when you're angry, when you're upset, which is the exact opposite thing that she's yearning for. She doesn't want me to calm her down, which is another way of saying, look, get smaller, shrink what you're doing, stop expressing so much because I can't handle that. I can't love you in all of that. I can only love you if you kind of shrink yourself, right? I had no idea that that's what I was doing. Rather than just, she told me one time, she said, Bryan, when I'm angry, all I want is for you to hold me. I thought she was fucking crazy at the time. Hold you? You're asking me to hold an exploding nuclear bomb. That was the story I was living in. You can imagine if that's the story I'm telling, there's no way I'm holding her. I'm getting out of there. This fucker's about to explode. I gotta go. Right? Or diffuse it somehow. All she wanted was for me to hold her. And I get that now. I didn't get that then. Failing to see that then, dude, it destroyed everything I cared about. All she needed was to be held, really. She told me that once. She didn't tell me that all the time. She told it to me once, right? But she was angry a lot. And again, I couldn't show up for her. And that's what, when I say show up, what I mean is I couldn't be with her in her fullness, I mean, it was easy to be with her when she's happy, right? But when she was angry or upset or raging or whatever, like I mean, she's a full spectrum woman. I mean, all women are. Most men just want the easy part, but then when we get the easy part, we get bored of them. We really want a woman that can express her fullness, but we're not taught that, right? So that, I mean, that's one of the biggest insights that I've ever had. And again, it breaks my heart over and over and over again because I saw how I couldn't love her in her fullness, and it fucking kills me because she was an amazing woman. And so it's almost like a lot of the work that I do is penance for my ignorance, for how I let this woman down and others, surely, because I just, my capacity to love them was so narrow. And it fucking, I mean, even as I'm telling you this story, it's like, ugh, like my heart breaks a little bit, but it's, you know, it breaks open because it just, I feel when I think about that and in the work that I do with men in particular, but definitely even in couples, I mean, that's all any of us want, is to be loved in our full expression. And that's one of the main gifts that a masculine person can give to their feminine partners, to be able to hold them even when they're exploding.
Would you say now that you understand all this, do you kind of like regret or upset at yourself that you couldn't fully be there for her when she wanted you to hold her hand?
Well, yeah, I was hard, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah, it kills me that I couldn't. But I didn't know. I had to learn. This is how I had to learn. I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn the way of not doing it and losing the most important woman in my life to date, the most important relationship I've ever had. I had to lose it. And look, I don't want to fully let her off the hook. I mean, she had her own maturing to do. She was very immature herself. I mean, she had her own work and her own blind spots, her own stuff. And I love working with couples because I can see both sides and see what's going on and help them get awareness around what they're both doing so that they can do the dance together. But I also see how powerful I was and am. I could have fundamentally changed the dynamic of the relationship by just breathing and staying in my body and literally, sometimes just energetically holding her when she was in her pain. And that's what I was never able to do. And most men can't do that with their partners. And everybody suffers as a result. So my name is Bryan Reeves, and I'm interviewing for The Love Story, and my definition of the ultimate love story, wait a second, my ultimate definition of the love story is that we are waking up to the love that we are, y'all. There's no love out there to get. It's all here, in here. We are fountains of love, just here to give our love to the world. And that is the ultimate love story that we are waking up to. It's so juicy, yummy, good.
It's delicious.
Yeah, that's a wrap.